Hey, everybody, welcome back to Gardens, the Untold Story. My co-host, Andy Lopez, The Invisible Garden, and I'm Ken Somerville, and we're talking about Vegetable Gardening Guide. Now, if you guys don't have Andy's book, you can go to his website, get on his email list. He'll send you the PDF so that you can see what we're talking about, because we're going through his book chapter by chapter. But Andy, Vegetable Gardening Guide, you got a whole bunch of stuff in there. So let's start talking about it.
So I have another book actually called Vegetable Gardening Guide. That's a separate book that I wrote. I wrote that in the early 70s, somewhere maybe somewhere in the 80s and 70s. I forget. I did a lot of stuff in the 70s. It covers what I want to do. What I'm doing today is I'm going to cover some of the basics in garden. Some of the basics steps that you need to take, and once you have these basic covers, how you do it is up to you, because gardening is very much like cooking. Man, everybody gardens in different ways, but the end result is what you want. And so,
well, yeah, because some people live in California like you, and some people live in Canada like I do. We can't garden the exact same way as each of us, so we each have to find our own best methodology for our soil and our environment.
I have when I started doing this, I ran a club called Invisible Gardeners of America, because people kept finding me. We didn't have the YouTube in those days. I just had my radio show, but because my radio show kept being syndicated, kept going out, people kept coming back and said, "Well, how do I do this? Where do you live?" "Well, I live in Montana," and they have an entirely different idea of what gardening is, right? Us folks in California or people in Miami, and I've been fortunate enough to live in southern Florida, northern Florida, Austin in Texas, that area of Texas there, and Boulder, Colorado, and then now I live in California. They're all very radically different gardening things. For example, in when I lived in Boulder, Colorado, I gave up on growing outside. We had a pool with a big giant screened-in pool, right? That was my garden. That was my garden. I had vegetables in containers all the way around the pool. The water was cool because it gave it the humidity, and the screen kept the animals from getting at it. When I lived in New York, my garden was on a roof, so I made raised beds on the roof. So the actual process of it will vary, but there are some very basics. No matter where you go, you want to follow, and then that will help you down the road, because I've learned that once you do something wrong, you can't go back and fix it. It's basically the easiest way to do that. And so I'm going to just state some of. So in this book, I call it The Basics of Organic Gardening. Looks like I have 8 basics. Normally, now I have expanded my consciousness. I do 10, everything in 10, series of 10. This was the early days when I had series of 8. So the first one is called The Life of the Soil. The life of the topsoil is the most important part of organic gardening. Now, I've come a long ways with you, Ken, my friend. So I would say in my new version of my book, the soil biology is the most important part of organic gardening.
Which is the life of in that soil. So it's the same basic thing, just explaining it different.
And I really like saying soil biology, because people go, "Well, what's a topsoil?" They have no idea what that is. And remember, this stuff was written in the 70s, but that's why I really like working with you, because you make what I've been trying to explain to people so easy, so clear. Because anybody can understand soil biology. You have something going on in the soil, it's alive. They don't need to know the details of what the little creature is or what's going on. But when you look at topsoil, you go, what is? So, that was right from the beginning. When I started gardening, I was impressed with the organic gardening magazines when he said to feed the soil, not the plants. And I'm going, what what does that mean? What does that mean? So, just like here, the topsoil is the most important. Okay, so what does that mean? And then goes on to something else, nutrition. And so and I'm upgrading the book. I feel I should say that the soil biology, the living organisms that are in that soil is the most important part.
And that's what you're feeding when they were saying feed your soil. That's what they were actually talking about, is feed that soil, feed that biology, feed the life.
Right. So when I heard that, I also ran across Rudolf Steiner with biodynamics. And so they were talking basically about the same thing as feed the soil, but they didn't get into the names of the different types of biology. They just they're saying there are things living in the soil that if you put this there, they'll eat it, and then the plants will get it. Yeah. And so the secret life of soil, secret life of plants. It's the name of the book. You guys will love it. You should read it. Secret Life of Plants. And there's another book about the soil, but I think it's called Secret Life of the Soil. And like I said, I was recently at a talk where the lady talked about the intraterrestrials. These are biology deep down. So, but so the most of this whole, I'm thinking of rearranging this whole chapter and just talking about it's the soil biology. I have one, the letters in big. That's it. One big giant. It's a soil biology right there. Yeah, that's it. Because that's the key to seriously everything. Well, so in this book I talk about fruit trees on the lawns, roses, you name the thing. And what is it? They all as the most important thing for them. That's the most important. That's it. You can't point to any. Oh yeah, nutrition.
All about the biology.
That is the most important thing. Seriously, because you need water. If there was no water, you wouldn't have soil biology. You would need oxygen, but if there's no oxygen, you wouldn't have soil biology. But all these other things are physical things that come together to make it so that we have soil biology. I mean, the whole process of like this lady was talking about the intraterrestrials that live in the middle of the earth down there somewhere, but they're also out in space, and at meteoroids you'll find the basic structures for life. But they all have to come together in the right combination of things, environmental things, to produce life.
And so which produces a cell, and the more cells you put together, the larger the life form. Like we've got trillions. A plant has let's just call it billions, but it's all the cell division, and it's the building blocks that are necessary to build that cell, and the workforce to put it together, and that's all, of course, done by the biology.
And so it really understates. So I'm looking at this little paragraph. The life of the topsoil, most important part of the organic gardening, and then it goes on to nutrition, and it doesn't really even say that it's the soil, it's the biology giving you the nutrition in the first place. You know what I'm saying? My second thing, I says nutrition. Always provide proper nutrition. I'm going, duh. So I actually am critiquing myself because it's really stupid on a certain level. I'm going, what the hell is this guy? What the heck is this guy talking about? Because the key is having plants with high Brix level. Okay, high Brix always means higher minerals. Cool. Always use your certified organic fertilizer. Cool. But still, what I'm going to say is, okay, so guess who feeds the plants? Guess where who are the people? Who feeds the plants? The biology feeds the plants.
Yeah.
So nutrition is obvious. Very quick, you have to eat. So when we talk about when you hear about gardening, you think about organic fertilizer. Let's put organic fertilizer, and that should be the nutrition, right? Or some people make compost, which is, thank heaven they have a choice, right? Because they understand that okay, and the better they get at the compost, the better they get to understand that it has to be a live compost, and they get to the point, oh, I am basically making soil biology for the compost. When I put it in the ground, I'm increasing the soil biology. That's what I'm doing. I'm constantly,
and the organic matter, because that's the other one. You have to have that organic matter for some of the biology to live on. It's not the same biology that's breaking out, calcium from a sand particle. It's breaking the calcium out from the other organic matter. It's the same basic biology. They're just cousins. One does one job, one does another, but you need both. And the organic material breaks down faster. It's bioavailable for the next season of plants that much faster. Now, Andy, we do have a couple of questions here.
Questions? I don't like questions. I tell you, no questions. What?
Should I plant mustard in the fall or spring to kill squash bugs? Does mustard kill any other pests? And if so, which ones?
Okay, Serena, so you're going down the wrong path. Okay, so what you should be saying is, what am I not feeding? What's wrong with the nutritional cycle that's going on in my property that I get squash bugs? When you get squash bugs, it tells me it's the bugs going, this is food for me, therefore it's nutritionally deficient. I'm going to eat it. Duh. So if you really want to solve your problem, you have to ask yourself, okay, what am I missing here? Because I am obviously missing something to end up with. I asked you a question. So, Serena, do you have a refractometer? Huh? Go ahead. Serena, are you there? Answer yes or no. If you say yes or no within the next 10 minutes, you get a free Mercedes-Benz electric. Come on. So I'll say probably you do not have a refractometer. Because if you had a refractometer, you would do a reading on your plants, whether it be zucchini or whether it be pumpkins or whatever plant, you would do a reading on it, and you would know. And by the way, I have a free ebook called, which is basically all about bricks and it has the different levels of plants. It was done by a friend of mine. He gave me permission to give away. Yeah, do you have one? Does that mean yes?
And that's silly Lily, typing that in. That's not Serena. So
a refractometer helps you visualize. You will see a Brix level. Brix level is a measurement of sugar. It's also a measurement of what minerals you have. Because remember, the most important is the mineral. But I am also realizing now that what's really the most important person to do in a garden is to constantly be putting in the biology. Set up a system that you're always making this stuff, and the stuff is always going on in your garden. That's what I do in my business. That's why I have a worm farm, because the worm farm are constantly, those guys are like, give us the food. And they're like, well, this stuff just right now is producing stuff, and it just keeps coming, because in nature, the process is always happening, right? In nature, it's always doing this. Nothing stops, right? Everything is constantly changing. You're constantly being adding, right? Whereas here we have things stop all the time. You have so much toxins. We have toxic waste. We have toxic plastic, all kinds of chemicals. We have places that zero the kind of biology you really need for a garden, because there are, even though there's nothing growing, there's something in there that can be considered soil biology. It's not the biology you need to have vegetable or plants growing. You see what I'm saying? In the desert, you have a completely different biological system than you have in your vegetable garden, right? So the most important thing for you to understand, Serena, is there are two ways to deal with it, and you have to deal with them both. One is what you're learning here is that the reason why things happen, and you want to key into that, basically goes down to the biology, right? But see, what happens is that you need to be supplying the biology, and the biology is very tricky, because I learned from experience, and I wasn't calling it biology, and I apologize for calling it all the time biology. I like that name, because it could mean anything that I could buy that has to do with biology, right? There's lots of enzymes and bacteria, all kinds of stuff. You just see when I go shopping to make my super seaweed, I get this, I get that, I get this, like, oh, more, there's more. But the wider I learned from experience, if I get stuff from everywhere, make a mixture, it's like, oh, my, look at this stuff. I'm going to be covering the biology that's needed for the property that I'm working on. See what I mean? Because you just can't get, a lot of people get, they have horses. So they have horse manure, that's their compost, and that's it. And they don't even they may have a little bit of rock dust, maybe not, but they don't have any other sources of biology coming in, right? Or other people do other. But when I did it, I got llama manure, rabbit manure, sheep manure, cow manure, horse manure, goat manure. I mean, it was like, chicken, the more the blend, the better. And not just that, I would get stuff from plants and get all. So that's why I like the biodynamic system, because they get it from plants and stuff. But I took it one step further. I said, what happens in nature? Animals die. Animals are born, they eat, they poop, they spread stuff around. The earth gets squished, rock dust, everything all gets blended together, right? That's
Yeah, yeah.
and that's the secret is to never key. So I guess they're still friends, but basically they're chemists. And they would say, you need 5 pounds of calcium for every so much feet. You need 10 pounds of potassium for so many pounds feet. And you need nitrogen, and you know, and you can mix this stuff together. And what is this bull BS about soil biology? You don't need that. You just need these chemicals. You give it to them, and they're going to eat it. Nitrogen is nitrogen. There's no, you know. And then they'll say you can't, you know, the food is just as good. Anyway, that's another story. But basically, that's and so you have to back up a little bit. You have to say to yourself, okay, I'm guessing this is a common problem you have, right? What's her name?
Serena, and she
Right,
had
Serena?
actually I found inch-long white caterpillars on the other underside of my zucchini squash leaves. What are they, and how should I treat them?
First of all, you know, caterpillars are good people. They turn out being beautiful butterflies. And the caterpillar would not be eating your plant if it wasn't the right food for it. And so Mother Nature has said, okay, we want butterflies, and butterflies are just going to go around and eat the plants that are not healthy. Their healthy plants will survive, and everything will work out fine. So you're not feeding your soil the right things, because something is happening. Probably like the city water is destroying the biology all the time. Toxics are destroying the biology all the time. The air could be toxic. Could be any number of toxins that destroy biology. You haven't talked to me anything at all about what you're doing to your soil to increase the biology, right? You're not saying, well, you know, I've been making compost. I've been doing this. No, she didn't say a word about these plants have this caterpillar. What should I do? And it's like, you gotta tell me, you know. And you have grasshoppers.
Lots of grasshoppers and crickets.
Yeah, and
you look at it 2 ways, Serena. You've got a lot of life on your property,
yeah,
you know, which is going to bring birds in, and it's going to bring other things in that eat those things as well.
right,
and
right.
It is a cycle of life. The larger the pests, don't necessarily, you know, they'll eat any kind of a leaf, but the higher the sugar content, right, which is what Andy's why we talk about the refractometer, the healthier your plant is, the higher the sugar content. But to get to that point, you need the biology, and you need the basic building blocks. That's where the compost comes in, you know. And I know I pointed this out on Monday's show, and I'm just going to bring it up again, because it's something that a lot of people don't think about, is how they're getting it's this one over here. There we go. We'll bring that up. This is sand. Okay. These are all of the different things that are in a particle of sand for components or building blocks for your biology and cells. So if you do not have a little bit of sand mixed in with your soil, and you do have the biology, then you're not having the biology that can mine the sand. It's just like I talked about a few minutes ago, having the organic material that's breaking calcium out, or having the sand. It's the same basic cousins of biology, but one's mining one, one's mining the other. You need to have both. You need to have that balance built in.
So what's going on is, Serena, is that you need to understand the whole picture of your garden and how nutrition is absorbed and used. Otherwise, and it's nothing wrong with having these creatures, whether it be grasshoppers, whatever. You want a highly biological garden, the birds, all kinds of things happening. They will not attack healthy plants. You let the creatures go out after what they can eat, because that's their job. And you're a healthy plant. So if your whole garden is healthy, you won't have so much of a problem with it, because the creatures will come and go, I can't eat none of this stuff. Oh, look over there. They go over to the next place where there's property that they can eat. But so what you want to concentrate on is you want to you have to tell me, are you making compost? What are you doing for your property? Because the whole thing about sand is exactly true. You have to be able to provide the structure, the foundation for all these things to work. And they are very different. They require different.
That's what rock dust is all about. Those are
Yeah.
building blocks as well. And that's where, but you need to have the biology to break them down to be able to use them in your plants. And you're talking about, our army worms in Oklahoma. What can I do to prevent them? You have to have healthy soil. That's where it's got to start.
So look,
healthy soil.
Here's something that you can do really that I've learned as a so you have a long-term and short-term solution. Okay, so when you have an environmental issue, all these creatures are all over the place destroying your property because of what's really going on in your environment. All these people have destroyed environment. Even a guy with a healthy organic property will get overrun with stuff, right? It's like a healthy man standing next to people who are sick. You're gonna get a little sick yourself. So what you want to do is you key into your property, but you do want to make a source of biology that you use and put back in your property. But here's the trick. This is one of the things I'm using. So that very same biology, you can use that to spray your plants with against these bugs or creatures that are attacking your plants.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? Because I'll give you an example. I just went to a place yesterday. I started doing treatments for them. I said they're being overrun with ants. And I said, my favorite thing to say is you don't have an ant problem, you have a soil problem. Okay. Yep. So the soil is going to take you some time to build it back up again because they haven't treated it like soil. So now you have this clay. That's all you got. And clay is like really super hard. Huh?
You got dirt. You don't have soil. You have dirt.
And dirt is what you sweep out your house. See? So and you don't have the structure that you need for the army to move in, the foundation, the housing, right? And for them to do their job. So you're going to have. So other creatures will take over, and ants, that's what they'll do. They'll move. There'll be a big giant ant colony because the soil biology controls the population of ants and other creatures. It's the soil biology that does it. So I learned a long time ago, if the soil biology is controlling the population of the ants, why don't I just make a tea and spray it? And that's what I do. So I will spray. When I spray the whole property, I'm spraying a lot of biology. And when I see ants, I tell them, okay, guys, ladies, the many lady-run organization, you may have to move because the biology is back. I like to say the good guys are back, the army is back, right? Because that's what it is, And so if you make the best compost that you can make, minerally rich, biologically rich, that's what you want to do. You have to concentrate on minerals, feeding the biology feeding the minerals to the biology. Because remember, the system normally would do that. The Mother Nature would normally get rock dots and all kinds of stuff and just give it to the biology wherever on the earth. But now Mother Nature's hands are tied up a little bit because these things called humans have screwed up the whole system to a degree that you can't get the recycling that you used to get. You can't get thousands of birds coming and flying and pooping and dying everywhere and animals everywhere. That is not happening.
You get chopped up by the new windmills trying to give you power to run your Tesla.
Yeah, hundreds of thousands of birds die every year from the windmills. And so road kills, like billions of animals get died all the time. So we're sterilizing our environment to the point that Mother Nature can no longer recycle the food and minerals they need. That's our job. And that's it. You do what Mother Nature does. Oh, she does that. I can do it too. And that's what I do. I basically, so I sprayed the whole area with biology, and I told them, okay, the long-term solution is you're going to have to get the compost I want you to get. I've been telling people buy Layton's compost, but it doesn't matter who you are. If you learn how to really make a biologically rich, minerally rich compost, that is gold. Okay, to me, and you want to have different sources of biology. You just don't stick to one source that you're using, right? You want to just get so many different. So a lot of times when I'm driving down the road, I see a wonderful place looking really good. I said, do you mind if I get some of your soil biology? And they go, what do you mean? So, well, because the Korean method is gardening. You can take some you can make it a little house with a soil biology. The mycelium will move in. All kinds of creatures will move in there. You take that and you start it on my place. I would bring it over here and start it in my garden, or start it, see if it'll take off in my worm farm, because that's the kind of environment I want for my worm. Something's happening over here. Oh my God.
Well, this is what you're talking about. This is a collection box.
That's right.
That you would put out to collect the indigenous microorganisms, or an IMO.
That's right.
And this is the kind of box you would actually see for that.
Yeah, and you take that and you transfer it to your place, and it does work. And so what I do is I would bring it to my worm farm, because I have different people who do different types of gardening. And so I said, I take 1 pound of I take 30 pounds of Layton's compost. That's one of my layers in my worm farm. The worms loved it. The worms said, "Oh, this is good," because the biology is not going to hurt them. They're a main source of the biology. One of the sources of it. And it's interesting that I use worms as a source of their biology. But
I would suggest anybody that can have a worm farm. It's like I can't do a compost pile. I can't turn it. But I can do a worm farm, and that's a huge source of biology. And like Andy says, he's using that. He's running water through it, getting the leachate out of it, and then he's spraying that, which is full of biology and building blocks. Because face it, I talk about the predator and prey. Okay, well, if you're spraying the biology onto a plant and it's not needed there for that particular plant, the biology that is there is going to eat them, which means they're going to break them down into the micronutrients needed for your plant. So you're either, putting in a workforce that's going to work with your plant, or you're putting in a food source for the biology that's building your plant. It's a win-win.
I had something here to move down. I was listening to you, but I think it's I missed it. It moved on me, because they were asking about. They have a really cool comment section over here. I sometimes I like to talk more about what's going on in the comment section, but it's kind of hard to do, because But I think it was this one here, which has to do with crop rotation, Serena. What they do is a lot of times they will rotate crops growing, because then you're changing the soil biology. When you rotate the crop, you're introducing different biology. So you can say crop rotation, but what I see it as is a biology rotation. See, what I mean? And that's why you want to do rotating soils. You want to introduce more biology. The real trick is to don't do a monocrop, but do a wide range of things growing from different sources of biology, so that they will enhance your property. That's why it's important to. So anyway, so if you have a garden and you're being attacked with calipers and all that stuff, spray the biology. You want to say, what can I spray? Well, guess what? If you don't have the biology to spray, you should find a source of compost, make the tea. You can't tell me I cannot find anybody around here that's making compost. No. I bet you if I ask my computer right now, I say, "Hey, Serena, who's making compost here?" 30 people will show up, 40 people will show up easily. And no matter where you are, you're in Africa, Canada, Australia, somebody around you is making compost.
And they also make worm juice, probably local. Like Andy's making worm juice. I know on the East Coast, I'm actually trying to get Captain Matt on to talk about worms. He makes worm juice. There's lots of people doing this. If you want a business idea, have a worm farm, start making worm juice for people.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right, Serena. Where are you at, Serena? Are you in Canada? Serena in Canada?
I think she's Central U.S. I think
Central U.S.
Don't quote me.
Serena, I don't know what kind of garden area you have, or whether you live on a farm or it's just a little backyard thing, but something tells me you have something growing over there. And yeah, you should figure out a way to have a little worm farm, because once you have a worm farm going, you do it for yourself. Mainly you want to have so much biology going on in your place that you're going to be spraying it. The more you spray it, the better it is, because you have ants, you have diseases, you have pests. Not you, Serena. I know that you're healthy, but I'm talking about your garden when that, because that's what I do for people's properties. When I go to their place, I said, I'm coming here once a month. But if you want to be involved in your garden, you can have a little worm farm yourself and learn how to make the worm juice. And it won't be as good as mine because I'm an eccentric person. I buy lots of stuff. See, here's the thing. So people say, well, why is your worm juice so expensive? It's just worms and juice. And I have people, they have worm juice and they don't sell it for that much as you do. What's going on? You're trying to rip me off. And I tell them, well, it's not. It's a wrong name because it's worm juice is just one of the ingredients. It's part of it. One of the things so there's 14 different types of rock dust to start with, right? I used to have nitro 835, which is a wonderful product. The family died and they're not making it anymore, but it was an enzyme product out of Fayetteville, Arkansas. But I still use effective microorganisms. I use a wide variety of endo mycorrhiza. I get a lot of stuff from Michael. Michael from
you're adding a lot more stuff into your mixture. You're a business, as just a homeowner that, if all you can get or all you can have is, a worm bin under your sink, just to do house plants, you're a step ahead from a person that doesn't have that option.
Hey, Silly, are you there? Silly. Hello, Silly. What I was going to say was if Silly goes up to my website and looks up my blog, under the blog it'll say services. And under services, he'll say this is what super seaweed is made of. You click on that, you're going to see a list of names of stuff. You're going, what the heck is all of this about? Glutamous maximus, this type of biology, this type of bacteria. That's like this. You can never buy that stuff. You can, and these things are all stuff that I buy. Yeah, I do buy them all. I get it from various different places. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it's a totally mind-blending thing. I've had people say, well, isn't there a recipe for this stuff? Heck no. And as time goes on, people are better at making stuff. So there's more different sources of this stuff available now than ever before. Yeah. And so I just it was called super seaweed because it basically got a blend of 5 different types of seaweed. And then I would add some things too. Now the seaweed's become so toxic that I don't even use this liquid seaweed anymore because you can't really, rationalize having all this toxins in your product that you're spraying. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no. But what they will have to do is just get a little serious about it, right? You get a little serious, you start to blend a little more things into it. And if you study it, you'll see that there's so many different people selling so many different products you can add to it. Like Michael's Blue Skies are a perfect example. He has a wide variety of things that are all good for you to add to the liquids. Like when I go there, they're going, this, going this, going that, some of this. And that's just from him. I get some biology from Layton. One of the things you want to find locally, people are doing stuff. I have a friend who does a worm farm, so I go get from him. Michael makes a great compost. It's slightly different than Layton's compost, and that's why I like dealing with organic garden clubs with you. You can always find somebody doing something, and you can say, "Well, I want some of that too." So that's what you want to do. You got to get really serious about compost. Is expensive. Cover crops be used instead. No, you're missing the point about compost. Cover crops are not going to bring in the soil biology that you want. So you can do cover crops, but they basically have a certain, but they are not going to bring the type of soil biology that you need. And that's
let me explain to people why that is, Andy, because when you do a compost, you go through the hydrophilic, the heating up stage. That's all bacteria at that when it's hydrophilic, it's breeding only bacteria. You have no higher life forms. Now, when you're doing a cover crop, you're starting with the organic material. Now, a cover crop is fantastic. I definitely recommend it.
Yeah.
But it is, like Andy says, it's only the biology that exists in that particular type of plant. Where think about the predator prey model, where you have to have the bacteria before you can have the endophytes, before you can have the next layer and next layer and next layer of biology. So in compost, you're going to get a complete cycle of that biology, where in a cover crop, it
You only get
isn't going
one
to
layer.
be as much. So
And that's why you have to change cover crops all the time, different kind of cover crops to try to get a blend, you know. But the truth is, you cannot replace compost. And compost can be expensive, but you think about it, it's not really expensive because you take a little bit of compost and make a lot of soil biology from it. So, for example, my compost, I never considered to be expensive. It was like $50 for 40 pounds. And so
mhm.
nowadays over here you can buy it's $30 and there's $40 for $30 for 10 pounds or 15 pounds. That's the cost of compost around here. But you can take that 15 pounds and make 100 gallons of amazing tea. Easy. Several times as a matter of fact. As a matter of fact, you can do it. You can end up with 1,000 gallons of this amazing tea that you could use. And by being amazing, it would have all this soil biology in it. Lots and lots of soil biology. You can inoculate your property. You can take that a little bit and make more compost from it. So it's not really. And then when you think of it being expensive, well, what kind of expense is it? I don't see it as. I'd be willing to pay whatever it takes to get my garden function at the best and have all the best food in it, have no problems with that bug or this disease or that. That's worth it to me. And you don't have to go the expensive route because this is something like cooking. You can hire a chef and you can buy his stuff very expensive, or you can learn the process and become a good chef yourself.
Yeah. Well, and like Farmer Cheryl says, she's got a 13 variety ground cover seed blend for her raised beds. 5 weeks until the first frost. Is that enough time? So as long as it can sprout up, like I used to grow microgreens, and we talked about microgreens, and we talked about seed sprouting. That's where the most nutrition is in that smallest plant. So as long as you can get that to sprout up, especially with 13 varieties of seeds. I've talked about this before, where if you do a seed sprout, if you do that as a seed sprout and you take that liquid, every time that seed pops open, it sprays out the particular biology that's supposed to go along with that plant. So you have a mass, the 13 different strains of biology if you've got the 13 different cover or seeds from that. So yeah, do that. 5 weeks is plenty of time,
I would drink
for seeds to sprout.
I would drink it because I was with the Hippocrates Health Institute, and they call that Rejuvilac. So when you make
Yeah.
sprouts, you don't throw away the water. You add a dash of lemon to it, and you drink it, and it's amazing stuff because it has very, very rich and trace minerals, very, very rich in what's needed to grow stuff.
Well, and you can do that as a foliar spray, and that is going to really help out the plants. It's all those building blocks and all that biology that's there. It's amazing. Just a seed sprout is amazing to use.
When you get into biology, you'll find that there's a lot of ways. Compost happens to be one of the easiest ways to increase your biology, and you get better at it. The better you actually make compost, the better you're. But if you ever send it to a lab, they're going to go, "Holy cow, what's in here?" Right? There actually should be things that they cannot find, and so Serena's absolutely correct about building up healthy soil. When I look at healthy soil, I mean complete with all the biology needed to be there.
Yeah.
That's
And are you talking about Shawnee Grows, the comment that you have up? That's not Serena. And we put in the link for Shawnee's channel. She does an amazing job teaching people on her channel as well. So you guys want to check her channel out.
Yeah. Hey, Shawnee, I'll be out the guest for you anytime.
There you go.
So we covered a little bit. Let me see. So one of the things I had talked about was a raised bed. Did you know you can grow 4 to 7 times more food in a raised bed than you can in the ground?
Okay, now hold on. Okay, if I've got a 4 foot by 4 foot raised bed and I got a 4 foot by 4 foot section in the ground,
Yeah,
Well, how can I grow more in the raised bed than I can in the
right.
ground, Andy?
Because you have more control of the environment that you have. You can grow almost continuously. You can grow because you learn how to also rotate. So you can grow. It gets healthier and healthier and healthier if you make your raised beds correctly, which has a uh, deep. Normally, you want to go 3 to 4 feet down into the ground, and you make it gopher proof and the whole setup. You have more control over the soil than if you were growing in the ground. You have control over water. You can put a cover over it to protect it a lot easier. You can have more plants growing in that small little space because it's very, very rich. You can keep it richer than in the ground. Uh, I learned that from experience because I kept growing more. I can grow more like outside here in the ground. It has to be the only way that would work. You basically have a farm like where you rototill the whole thing, make like a big giant raised bed, and you rotate it. Maybe what happens, you do an area of your property, then you move to another area of property. But usually in the ground, it's very, very difficult to control everything. But in the raised bed, you definitely can grow more food in that area. I had a one of the gardens I did, I had 10 raised beds. So in the past, I would have the same area, and I couldn't grow as much as I would grow in the same area with having the raised beds in there. Each bed produced more and more food than the area by itself without the raised beds.
Well, I think the biggest qualifier on that is in the raised bed, you're putting in fresh, lofty soil. You're mixing it so that it's got all the compost in it,
Yeah,
et cetera,
yeah,
et cetera.
yeah,
And
yeah,
in the ground, it takes a long time for that to sink into the ground
yeah,
for the everything to be there. It's like a carrot, okay? If you are growing in dirt, it's really hard, compact soil, okay? The carrot can't grow down, where if it's in a raised bed, it's all nice and lofty soil. The carrot down and you have a much bigger carrot.
I know. I have friends that grow in some certain places because their soil is kind of ancient. You can dig down for feet and feet and feet. And I have
Yeah.
friends that have, like here in California, you can't really, you have to kind of like digging a grave. You have to dig a giant hole right through this hard stuff to try to grow in it, and then you put your,
Well, you need a machine just to break through the crust to get down into anything that's soft.
right.
You
So in
know,
the raised
especially
bed,
if you're rototilling. If you're rototilling, you're actually putting a hard pack at the bottom where the rototiller is, which stops plant growth. You know that's where broad forks come in, where you can get down and break that hard pack up. But raised beds are, and Andy, face it, at our age, it's a lot easier to sit on the raised bed and pull weeds than it is to get on your hands and knees to pull weeds.
so I did a garden for veterans at the VA center, and a lot of them were in wheelchair. So they cannot, wheelchair, right? They cannot get, so you have the beds up high enough so
Yep.
they can just reach for them. And in a raised bed, like you said, when I had 10 raised beds, I would have one raised bed I would grow peanuts in it or something else, sunflowers or flower, and then rototill them back in and let them go through the whole cycle of decomposing because I can make it a really rich environment for plants. So I would rotate that with the plants, and I would never grow tomatoes in one raised bed over and over and over again. I would grow tomatoes, and they rotate the beds too. The same thing. Anything I grew would get rotated across all the beds rather than just have one bed grow stuff. I,
Now,
I,
I have a question for you, Andy. Like, okay, let's use tomatoes as the example. So, at the end of the season, you're pulling your tomato stalks down. You're saying you're working that back into the soil. But okay, if you're gonna say like you got two raised beds, 1 and 2, you raise one was the tomatoes, and the next year you're gonna do tomatoes in number 2. Did you ever consider taking all that stocking, putting it in number 2, because that's what is necessary for that plant for the next year? Did you ever think about that?
that's too much work.
Okay, so you're just composting it anyway. You said you were tilling it back into the soil though,
Yeah.
so
So
that's why.
if I have one bed and I grew tomatoes in it, then the following year I would grow the tomatoes in a different bed, and in the place where I had grown tomatoes, either it would leave it go fallow peanuts or whatever I wanted to grow, or I would grow something else in it. But the thing is that they would all the raised beds would always get amended on a regular basis. So it's not like you have the raised bed, you just grow something, you're not doing anything to it. You know,
Yeah.
it's basically a new bed. You know, 'cause you can
Your hip is ringing, Andy. You know,
that was
like
my hip. That was my
yeah.
hip. Yeah, that was my heart. But
Now,
so
I want to jump on this leaf mold thing. What are the benefits of leaf mold, and how long does it take to make it? It's leaf mold is mycelium, and it's a fantastic thing. It's life. How long does it take for Mother Nature to make it? You know, depends on your moisture content, etc. That's where, you know, if you lift up your leaves that are falling under the trees and you see a lot of white, that's your leaf mold. That's your mycelium. You know, so it really depends on moisture content in your area. If it dries out, it's going to take a lot longer for that to start breaking down and forming the mycelium network.
I know this company, and what they do, they as a service, will come and collect your oak leaves on your property and get rid of it for you. And what they do is they make oak leaf mold and they sell it.
Well, and if you have that available to you, you know, make compost out of that, break it all down, and use that as worm bedding. It's so good and healthy. Remember, guys, the worm does not eat the leaf; it eats the bacteria that's already eating the leaf. So when you see a hole in the apple and you're going, oh, there's a worm in there, it's in there to eat the bacteria that's already breaking down that apple. It's not actually eating the apple itself. People get that really confused. The worm eats biology. It doesn't eat that big material of the leaf.
And in the biology is where they'll get the minerals and whatever else that they need. And
Yeah.
that's the way that's the way it's pretty much has always been, you know. So let me see. I think I have a bunch of other stuff in here because I talk a little bit about keeping the water below ground. It's essential that you not have water above ground, keep it below ground. Drip systems are easy, can be kept below ground. Lots of things. The water is an issue. One of the things, you make sure you have a garden filter because the city water is toxic to your garden. So if you want to have really amazing results with your garden, you have to have a garden filter, a soil, and there are lots of companies out there that sell garden filters, and you can buy a simple garden filter, but you really want one that's made for water flow, because a garden filter that you buy in the store reduces the pressure so much you can hardly water with it or anything. You can't process through it. So they have these whole property filtration systems. You just I found here in Malibu, they're like $10,000. These companies sell it, but I found one for $2,000 that does the same job. So if you look enough, you're going to find companies that provide you a decent water filter, which will filter out the chemicals and allow the biology to survive to some extent. The other thing you want to do is, ideally, one of the ways you can sneakily provide more biology to your soil is to use a fertigation unit. A fertigation unit is a unit that it's basically a blend of a fertilizer and irrigation. So it's a unit that basically you're supposed to put your chemical in there, and the chemicals get mixed with water, and it gets siphoned out into the water and it goes out. But you can do your biology and make some compost tea, a tea bag, put it in there, or use lots of different things that are coming in liquid form. If you did nothing but put kelp in there or seaweed in there, you are increasing the biology, and it's going on a regular basis all the time on your property. So that's a really good, one of the very important things. Remember, you want to key into the health of your biology. You want to be like the soil lawyer. The lawyer of the
well, you want to not only respect the biology, but you want to promote the biology and all kinds of different types of biology. Biodiversity is a lot better than one type of biology only. The more, the merrier. But Blue Sky sells that filter. So if you're in the States, that's somebody you can get it from. But check out wherever you are locally, whether you're in Australia, Europe, Canada. There's a lot of different things, but I wanted to address Adrian. I think I'm pronouncing that right. The altitude, you can go a little bit higher, but don't. I think it's 300 feet. You don't want to go much more than that because you're getting into different biologies. But yeah, exactly. Go out to take a drive out into the country, into a forested area, and you can grab some pretty good leaf mold out there, even in your own backyard. If you have a tree that's got the leaves and you're leaving them there for the season, you can literally pick that up and grab that and use that as your leaf mold, because as long as it's already breaking down, as long as it's got that white, you've got the biology sitting there.
One of the things that I was adding today towards my feeding my worms was I ended up with a sample products of all these different kinds of mulches that I could find, and the mulches were already have mycelium already growing on them. Those little suckers were already producing mycelium already. These little white things and that's perfect. The wood chips I added to the worm bin, the fine aged wood. All this stuff is like when people grind. A lot of companies, when they tree service, when they come and they grind stuff up, you can use that because the tree bark. All these things are excellent foundations for the mycelium to grow in. So you want to add that to your source. If you make compost, whether you're a worm farm, you want to start something that you have a constant source of biology come in, and as you get better, you learn how to blend different things with it, how to make lactobacillus, for example, part of the biology you can add to it. Yeah. So, and you want to not stick to one particular kind of biology. So remember, you want to always have a different biology going. And one of the things that we're going to be going to next, I'm looking to see what the next chapter is, because I think that we did a lot on the gardening, preparing your soil, soaker.
Well, you look that up, and I'm gonna look at Serena's question here. I have a lot of green algae growing in my light tan rain barrel. I'm thinking about taking a broom to remove it after I use up all the water. What are the pros and cons of adding algae into my compost bin? Yes, it's more biology, it's more building blocks, especially in your compost bin. That
and algae is wonderful. Algae is wonderful because that's one reason why I key into the ocean, because the ocean is full of different types of algae, different types of kelp, different types, and these are all very, very basic biological systems that you want to have on your property, right? You want to use that. So if you have a source, start using that. Run that through your system. Use it through the worm. Use it in your compost.
Fish water. If you're keeping fish, you can take the filter out, throw that in a 5-gallon bucket of water. Wait until it starts to smell sweet. 5 to 7 days. When it's starting to smell sweet, it's got a bloom of fantastic biology that you can use. So there's all kinds of different ways to get biology, guys. So we cover a whole lot of this stuff throughout a multitude of shows, whether it's this show, The Soil Matters, Conversations in Ken's Cafe. Go back in history. We're in our third season here, Andy. 3 years we've been doing this, brother. We've put out a lot of information, man.
All you guys have to do is start going to the shows. If you're not subscribed, subscribe and follow, because there's lots of stuff here that you're not going to pretty much find anywhere. That's why I don't stick to the average garden talk. What variety are you growing? All that stuff you can find out there. People say what zone you need to grow in. What you find here is how to have an amazing property by keying into the soil biology. That's exactly what we talk about. We always everything leads back to this, and realistically leads back. Even us, we're all about the biology ourselves. all leads back to that
We're
as
just a
well.
collection of cells, guys. And who's in control of building the cells? It's the biology.
So that's something and I don't know what IMO is. This one over here where
I-
Arlene.
integrated pest, integ-
Yeah. Uh-huh.
indigenous microorganisms, and IMO. That's what you're going out to collect. Um, and you're putting out that box that I showed. That's a IMO. It's part of the Korean natural farming methodology, guys.
And you wanted to eat the algae. You wanted to eat the algae.
Well, an IMO is basically you're putting a box out, say under a tree or under a stump where there's lots of biology available. It grows up into the rice that you're putting into there, and you're getting that bloom of biology. Then you take that and you mix it with brown sugar to stop the biology. And the reason it stops the biology, the sugar actually grabs all the water molecules. Without water, nothing can happen. It can't grow. That's where you know if you've got mold and you put on the sugar, it dries it out. It can't grow anymore. So IMO 2 to IMO 3, where you're mixing it in with the generally rice hulls, and you're growing out more and more. Then you've got your next IMOs. I think up to IMO 7, if I remember correctly, where you're putting all this stuff into the soil, and all these principles, Korean natural farming, regenerative, all of these things, it's all they're doing is growing more and more and more biology, putting more and more biology into the soil, and they're putting building blocks. They're adding the rock dust. They're adding all this stuff. Like if you ever watched Master Cho and him going out the chicken farms where they're taking manure straight out, mixing it with IMOs, and that's what they're using to feed the chickens, because chickens eat the small microorganisms as much as they are eating the bugs. It's all so much about everything needs the biology. And Korean natural farming, the green revolution, whatever methodology, it's always going to be about adding more biologicals and more building blocks, so organic material, etc.
Let me answer this Serena's
Hey,
question real fast. Okay, so it's the same thing with the human body. So when you have any of these problems, these are all related to the fact that you're not able to absorb certain types of trace minerals. And you're not getting them, you're not absorbing them, you're not using them. Therefore, your body's going to have a wide variety of issues and have problems. Because remember, it's all about the trace minerals and what you absorb. And so, and what the red light does, it allows you to start and absorb the minerals. The red light itself will help provide the minerals to a certain degree. So you want to key into providing yourself with different sources of trace minerals so that your body. But the problem is that your own biome needs help. Your own inner gardening biology needs help, and that's where you have to key into it. So you use the red light on your stomach area to allow it to. Yes, it does work. Remember, you have to have the biology ready in what you do. In other words, what you eat, and then. But if you just apply it to your stomach without eating any of the sources of trace, like for example, salt. Salt's very good. If you get the right source of salt, you're going to provide yourself with trace minerals. So usually salts have 70, 80 trace minerals.
well, and
So,
you look at indoor growing, Andy, they're finding more and more that far red light, which is the same basic frequency of light
yeah,
that you're talking about, is fantastic for plants. They need
yeah,
to have that. So they're
yeah,
adding them to these indoor fixtures. So if you're not getting outside, you're not getting enough daylight, especially the early morning and the late evening, where that red frequency is actually higher, then yeah, you need that red light therapy. Like up in Canada, we what's called SAD, which is we're not getting enough light, and we actually have to have therapy to get that frequency of light that is activating our cells. So red light therapy, red light saunas, things like that can be fantastically useful. But like Andy says, you need to have those building blocks. You need those minerals for that
That's the
red
whole
light,
point.
that frequency to interact with. If it's not
That's the whole
there,
point.
it's not doing it as
It's not
good.
going to work. So if you provide the building blocks, the red light will work. If you don't provide the building blocks, there's nothing for the red light to work on.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Therefore, you have to be careful of what you eat. So you want a wide range of food that you can eat as well. So you're bound to get the mineral in there. That's
And
what
if
you're
you're
trying
growing
to
it
do.
yourself the way we're telling you to grow it, it's all in there, guys.
And that's the key. And that's the key I learned, because I don't like to go out and buy this mineral and buy that mineral, when in reality, I should be making it from my garden. From whatever I grow, I should be getting a wide range, enough food to provide all the minerals that I need. That's what I want. That's the same thing I do for trees and plants and roses. Help them get all the minerals that they need. So if it works for the trees, I know that red light works really good on plants and vegetables.
Yep.
It does. They grow better. So we're basically like a vegetable ourselves. Yeah, we need the red light, but you need the foundation. Basically means get the food in you, get the sources of trace minerals in you, and the red light will help you to absorb it and use it in your body. But the next class is basically going to be on fruit trees.
Okay, cool.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. I enjoyed the show.
Yep.
Please visit my website, invisiblegardener.com, and have a good time, okay?
Well, let me put that up there for people. And guys, tomorrow we have the chiropractic is sexy on again tomorrow morning, and it's their birthday. Both their show and Dr. Paula Ruffin's birthday is tomorrow as well. So if you have the chance, it's up on the website with an upcoming live. Get on there. Throw a comment in, say happy birthday to Paula. And guys, getting your physical form aligned so the energy flows properly is really good for you. Andy, go invisible, buddy. I love you. All right, guys. We'll see you guys later on. And we do actually have the doctor for soil saviors who we had on or cell saviors and soil saviors. We had him on Monday. He's going to be coming on this coming Monday, talking about everything that is good for your body, good for your plants. He's a naturopath, etc. That's going to be a fantastic show on Monday, so don't forget that one on Monday.
Bye.
Bye, guys.